Welcome back to TYTSports. We're continuing the 2016 edition of the NBA Worst Awards. We're far enough into the season to establish who we think are the worst players in the NBA in respective categories, just like everything else in the NBA is ranked. Going back to 2015, we have to check on who were the worst players of 2015.
Can I Ben Mankiewicz this for a second?
Immediately Ben Mankiewicz?
There's too much hate for NBA. You know, when we talk about the good players, every time there's a discussion about the NBA, it's, you know who was the best of all time? This guy. And then someone else says, no, it's that guy. And then everybody starts talking about how much of a shitty person the other one was. And there's so much hate. Now it's the worst players in the NBA. Fuck these guys. Why are we so much hate towards players?
There's no fuck these guys coming out of my mouth. There's no, oh my God, I want these guys to roll over and die.
You know, I'm a fan of every NBA player except for one.
This is simply a list of players, at least categorically, that probably should be playing overseas.
See, that's a mean thing to say.
All right, so looking back on 2015, Ben Jackson Mankiewicz, from last season, I should say, who were the most unvaluable player, the worst defensive player of the year, the worst coach of the year, and the worst rookie of the year. Oh, and the most worsened player was Lance Stevenson from last year. Unvaluable player, Nick Young and Kirk Heinrich. Worst defensive player of the year, Enes Kanter. He will be back on my list. Worst coach of the year, Randy Whitman and Jacques Vaughn. Jacques Vaughn already got fired a while ago. And worst rookie of the year was Doug McBuckets. Out of that list, Nick Young is still pretty damn unvaluable. Kirk Heinrich dealt with injuries. Lance Stevenson is a little bit of a resurgence on the Grizzlies. Coach of the year, Jacques Vaughn, was gone, and Doug McBuckets improved.
Kirk Heinrich held some odd Bulls record, either for a number of games played or there's something he holds a Bulls record for, and I was a little surprised.
It's a Bulls record for the 30-something-year-old who somehow always looks like he's 60.
Can't be that bad.
Yeah, he's a pest, but I like it. We're going to start off with the most unvaluable player, which everyone was arguing with me beforehand. It's Marcelo Huertas. I'm so happy it's Marcelo Huertas because if it wasn't, I'd have to pick Austin Rivers. And like I've said multiple times, it wasn't for Doc Rivers. My God, that guy's not making any NBA roster. And look. Austin Rivers has improved because Pablo Prigione's there, so he doesn't have to handle the ball nearly as much. But if you have to let Austin Rivers make your decisions, you probably should find a different guard. But most unvaluable player is Marcelo Huertas, mostly because he runs around haphazardly. It takes him longer to make a cut because he feels the need to run in circles before getting to the rim to try to lose his defender. Marcelo Huertas looks like the guy in the pickup game that no matter what, is running around aimlessly when he doesn't have to and can't seem to get open because you can find deader angles to get the ball to him.
He's the guy in pickup when you don't guard him. You just double team the best guy and leave him alone.
Yes. Okay. Huertas, although also in the last couple of weeks has shown improvements in his game, has still been crossed up by almost every single player in the NBA. Even guards that, like I said before this clip, have never even done a crossover in their lifetime. Huertas got turned around more times on the defensive end of the floor than I've ever seen anybody. And I'm not saying like turned around as in he made a bad defensive breakdown. I mean like Chris Paul dribbles to the right and Marcelo Huertas' back is to Chris Paul.
The crossover is a deadly move, and it's hard to defend it. I'm going to throw defensive things up for everything.
I agree, but J.R. Jackson, like even you, Chris Paul, like would cross you over, you wouldn't be turned, like your back wouldn't be to him. You'd just be hoping he'd shoot the ball so you're ready for the rebound.
Huertas has a lot of energy. Props for that energy.
Like hustle points mean a lot if you're like Matthew Dellavedova, where you're scrapping on the floor, and it actually gets a little bit dirty if you're Dellavedova.
Yeah, I don't like Dellavedova.
But Huertas, okay. I'm sorry, he's not the worst player in the NBA. He's the most unvaluable. And I say that because every other player at his position on an NBA roster is a better fit.
Yeah, let's put it this way. He plays more than probably you would expect. There's guys in NBA, of course, that have the same skill set or probably get crossed over as badly as Huertas does, but they're not playing as much. So he's on the floor and he's exhibiting his lower level of skill more often. So you see a SportsCenter clip and it's not even focused on him, but you go, who is that guy who doesn't know what he's doing? Right.
All right, Jason, this is the voice of Bart. I have to jump in really, very, very briefly.
Go for it, my friend.
Okay, you're going to have to take Marcelo Huertas off the list, and I'll tell you why. Essentially, right now, he played in, correct me if I'm wrong, he played in, it was Israel, I think? Mm-hmm. Okay, in all essence, he's more or less a rookie playing for the NBA. Now, to add on to that, as we discussed before we were doing this clip, I do agree with you, Byron Scott placing him in certain parts of the game. He should let the younger players play more. You need to watch when the Lakers played Golden State Warriors a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
He is not the worst. There are more out there that's worse than Marcelo Huertas. As JR said, he extremes a very good hustle. From what I've watched from him, he's got a pretty decent way of, looking at the court and finding the open man, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to take him off the list.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with you.
Look, okay, Bart, you're totally allowed to. This guy's shooting 44.8% from the field. There's players who shoot worse on 4 points a game. There's players who average less. But also, just to prove the point even more, when you type in Marcelo Huertas stats into Google, Basketball Reference is like the 13th link that pops up. They go to like Marcelo Huertas LinkedIn because they don't know he's a basketball player.
Okay, man. You know what? That's your opinion, man. That's just numbers. Okay,
that's just your opinion.
When you Google Huertas, the response goes, "Why?"
Right. Marcelo Huertas has gotten way too much time on this clip. Way too much time. We continue. Worst defensive player of the year, not James Harden. I'll tell you why. James Harden doesn't try on defense, but when he does, see 2014-15, James Harden can be a good defender. Carmelo Anthony can't be the worst defensive player of the year because when he tries, they look like decent defenders. Marcelo Huertas is not the worst defensive player of the year either. But when he tries, he looks like it.
Okay, once again, he is a rookie.
The winner of this award, undoubtedly, this one's too easy, Enes Kanter. Back-to-back, give him the trophy. Worst defensive player of the year. The man looks clueless inside the paint. He doesn't protect the rim. Roy Hibbert might have made a good case for it this year too, but I'm leaving Roy alone because it was much better than what they had last year, and his doofy face it's not his fault, guys. It's been a rough go for Roy Hibbert the past few years with what possibly happened with Paul George, and
you got to stick with the older ones. The point is, if you're not trying on defense, talk about the
That's what I'm saying. Enes Kanter tries and fails miserably. Offensively, a tremendous talent, unbelievably. Hollinger's Hollinger's stats, the player efficiency rating, Kanter's in like the top 20. Doesn't take into account how bad he is on defense. In the sandwich, JR, which player do you have in your head that is the worst out of all these, including Coach?
I was going to put him on defense, but I just can't stand Corey Brewer. Corey Brewer is the worst. Corey Brewer has an approach to everything he does, on offense, on defense, in transition, when dribbling, when defending, when rebounding, and it is to flop. So he plays good defense, so I can't put him on bad defense because he stays in front of his man, he moves his feet, he puts his arms out, he gets steals, he does all these things.
Yeah.
He takes charges, except 97% of those charges are actually flops and defensive blocking fouls.
What about 3%?
Well, 3% of the time they are charges because he's always standing there waiting to fall. So then once you finally make contact with the 6'7", 8", probably 9, 117-pound player that he is, he jumps on the ground and kicks his feet and flails his arms and throws his head back and throws it to the side and dives underneath the paint and
Look. It's not
draws
fair.
bad fouls.
It's not fair that 1% of all the Rockets get 99% of all the flops. Okay? Worst coach of the year, still Randy Whitman. And at first, I would say the leading vote getter would have been Byron Scott. But
That's
you know
where I
what?
was gonna go.
Once he decided that the young trio of Clarkson, Randall, and Russell were allowed to run the floor, and he made D'Angelo Russell a starting point guard, I was like, okay, Byron, fair enough. You have avoided worst coach of the year. Randy Whitman, go ahead and watch the Washington Wizards run an offensive set, and then be amazed at how none of them move. Not even the point guard with the ball in his hand, John Wall. It's static. You'd actually, to me, the fact that Randy Whitman hasn't been fired yet is really annoying because I have him in a pool to get fired, and right now I can still win some money on it. But unfortunately, Lionel Hollins took a lot of that. A lot of the money went to the people who chose Lionel Hollins. The reasoning for why the Wizards are not going to make the playoffs this year is very simple. They weren't that good last year, okay? Right. John Wall is a one-dimensional guard who I absolutely root for and want him to be more than one-dimensional. The guy can dish the ball out very well, and he's fast. I guess he's two-dimensional. He can't shoot. That's important for a league dominated by guards who can shoot
from anywhere, or are you talking about just deep?
Anywhere. Shoot from deep, and I would even say from 16 feet out, it's pretty bad. He can attack the rim. I get that. He's very good at that as well. But Randy Whitman and this team last year was like the 3 or 4 seed. This year they're out of the playoffs because the Eastern Conference got that much better that it just proved how bad the Wizards are. in terms of trying to play any kind of look, Randy Whitman can't run a pick and roll with John Wall, who's one of the better ball-handling point guards in the league. Gortat looks clueless on the floor all the time, and he's always yelling at Whitman. And if you really, I can't believe I'm throwing this out there in the clip, but I'm going to, you really think you're going to sign Kevin Durant because he wants to go home to that team? Not happening.
Well, home and money might do a lot for people. But
money. I know you don't believe in the go home thing.
Not at all.
Rookie of the year was actually really tough. And I can't believe I'm going against my Wisco bias, Wisconsin Badger alum, Frank Kaminsky.
Yeah. I forgot all about that guy. That's how bad it is.
I loved how he played in college. He's another guy that's the all-hustle team. He could develop into a good player. Look, so could Huertas. I know everyone's going to yell at me for the Huertas thing. But
he's essentially a rookie.
Essentially a 57-year-old AARP member and rookie in the NBA. But Frank Kaminsky just has not translated to the NBA well, except for his dance moves. Those are amazing. So Michael Jordan, worst general manager of the year? Oh, no, can't say anything bad about MJ. Ever. Don't care. But comment below with your most unvaluable player, with your worst coach of the year, defensive player of the year, and worst rookie of the year in the comments below.
Be positive. My comments are that everyone.
I now have named the most unvaluable player of the year award as the inaugural Marcelo Huertas Award to be given out.
It's going to be called the Huertas Award.
It's going to be called the Huertas, and it will be given out every single year till the end of time in honor of Marcelo Huertas. He finally
got 2 players that will never appear on TYTSports, Huertas and Corey Brewer.
And Kevin Durant.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant. But Randy Whitman's totally welcome to come on the show. Make sure, again, comment below, like, favorite, subscribe. It goes a long way. @JR Jackson on Twitter, @JasonRuber91, and @TYTSports.